Let's check out today's conversation. Mike sits down for a conversation with Olympic gold medalist Carly Patterson. Carly illustrates the forging of her mental toughness from how she first stumbled upon gymnastics.
And I was like, I don't do gymnastics. This is my first time.
To almost leaving her dream behind.
So I remember, calling this family meeting and being like, hey, I think I'm ready to quit, guys.
To staking the gold medal all on one move.
Nobody in the competition was doing it, and nobody in the world was doing it.
All of this coming up next on this special edition of the Level Up Lifestyle.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Level Up Lifestyle Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Sheets. We're coming to you live from Globe Life Studios here in McKinney, Texas. Today's an amazing show. We have a very special guest. We have Olympic gold medalist Carly Patterson here with us. Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. And for those of you that are watching us online on YouTube, we've got some hardware here. So what do we have? What are we looking at?
Well, I brought my Olympic medals from 2004 Athens Games.
Okay.
And I got the gold right here that I got in the all-around competition. And I got a silver on beam, and we got a silver as a team that year. Just what you would appreciate seeing them.
Absolutely. And it just, it's great to be here in the presence of that as well, right? I mean, just such an amazing accomplishment. So, but like we've talked about here on the podcast, it's a great opportunity to see people in the success that they're in, but really hear about the journey to get to this point, right? A lot of people say, oh, wow, you won an Olympic gold medal. It just must have been, you just woke up and you were there and it was just all easy, right? And that road that it took to get to that point and those challenges that you had to overcome, that's really what we want to do, is just dig into that and, hear that story.
Yeah.
There's so many people listening that maybe they're not going down the path of Olympics, but in their own life, seeing some of those same challenges and how to overcome that adversity and setbacks. And so that's what we're going to do. So you ready?
Right, let's dig in.
Let's go. Let's get into it. So where are you from? Born and raised where?
Born and raised, semi-raised, I guess, from Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
Okay.
And then when I was about 10, 11, Dad's job transferred us to Houston, Texas. We were there for about a year. Mm-hmm. And then job transferred us again. And that's how we ended up in Dallas. And I've been in Dallas area ever since.
In here ever since.
Yeah.
So when did gymnastics turn into something like this is... Like when did you start doing it and how did that progress into where it is here?
So I started super randomly. My cousin, who was not a gymnast either at the time, had her birthday party at a gym in Baton Rouge.
Okay.
And at that birthday party, I didn't know what gymnastics was. That was my first time in a gym, but I was already doing stuff in the backyard and in the house. Like I was already doing gymnastic skills and teaching myself things.
Yeah.
And so I guess I was doing that at this birthday party and doing the skills I had taught myself. And so it caught the eye of the owner and coach of that gym. And he came over to me at that birthday party and he asked where I take gymnastics. And I was like, I don't do gymnastics. This is my first time.
Wow.
And he didn't believe me. And so he went over and talked to my parents and just was like, I see some talent and some potential in your daughter. Y'all should really think about putting her in the sport. And at the time, that was, not my parents' priority or thinking. And but after that birthday party, this spark was kind of lit inside of me. And I was like, okay, well, now I know what gymnastics is, and I really want to do it, and I really want to start doing gymnastics. And so, I begged my parents for probably a few months after that birthday party. And finally, after starting to probably do some crazy tricks in the backyard and, vaulting off of our patio table into the grass, they were like, okay, let's
do this more organized, a little safer, maybe, in a gym than in the backyard.
Yeah.
Right?
And so that's kind of how I got started.
Okay. How old were you when you went to that birthday party?
So I was 6.
Okay.
Yeah, which is a little bit on the older side, I guess.
Right.
To start gymnastics, most of the girls that I trained with, grew up with, started at like 2 and 3, or like even mommy and me classes.
Like you're just learning to walk and let's do some other things.
Right.
Exactly. Just from that beginning.
Yeah, and this was just, like I said, this is so random. Nothing like my parents' plan or anything like that. It was meant to be.
Yeah. What did your parents do?
Sport-wise?
No, just like what did they do for work? And then were they in any sports or anything like that as well?
So my mom was a gymnast when she
Okay.
was younger, but she didn't start till really late as well. She was kind of like 10, so even way later. And it was just something my grandma really loved. She loved gymnastics and really wanted one of her daughters to do gymnastics. And so it was my mom. And she did it for a little bit, but like I said, she kind of started too late. And then, it just didn't really go anywhere. But my dad has always been in the cars kind of sales business, finance business. And that's what he was doing back then with Honda, I think. And then my mom has been an RN for a long time.
Okay.
So she's a nurse.
Gotcha. Okay. So it's funny you said 10 is too late.
Yeah.
Right. When you think about it. But is that just because as you're younger and you just developing those skills when you're smaller and it's easier to learn, or just the length of time that it takes to be good? Is that what, starting so early is important, I guess?
Yeah. And in a sport like gymnastics, you really peak at a younger age. I would say you were really starting to reach part of your peak around 16, 15, 16 to 18. And those are just some really good times for, where you're going to be achieving some of your highest heights, I think. Although now the gymnasts now are kind of defying that and going longer, which is really cool to see. But really, when I was doing it, that was kind of your peak time. And so you want to start a lot earlier and really get all of the strength, the flexibility, all of these things, going and building up, so you can just kind of continue to build on that and keep getting better. It's one of those sports you really need to start when you're younger.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're 6, you go to the birthday party, and enough backflips off the back porch table, and your parents say, okay, let's get you in something. Was that just like a normal kid activity? I'm sure at that point it wasn't like, oh, well, we're someday be in the Olympics. Was it just a hobby? Yeah. And how did it start? And then when did it accelerate?
Yes, definitely just started out as this random, we'll put her in, for one class a week, right? And so that's kind of what it started as, just going once a week, doing a little class, but it did escalate pretty quickly. And I think same thing, like that coach and owner just kind of saw this talent in me and kind of just started developing it. And before you knew it, I was going 3 times a week, and then every day, and then twice a day, and then Saturday practices. And
wow.
Then it was, about 40 hours a week before you knew it, you were at the gym.
When did it go to 40 hours a week?
I'm trying to think. I mean, it had to have been probably close to like 8.
Wow.
Somewhere around there. Because I was already level 10, which is the second highest level you can be at 10 years old. So it's kind of funny because I recently got inducted into the International Gymnastics Hall of Fame the other weekend.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And so when I was talking to them about it, and they were just kind of doing this whole story for the video of it, they're like, what people don't realize is your time in the sport was actually really relatively short in what you were able to accomplish. And they're right. And starting from 6, and then if you think about it, in 4 years, being the second highest level you can already be, being level 10, a lot of times when I tell people that story, moms or, young gymnasts are like, what? They think they're already behind. But it was just so crazy how quickly I was able to kind of develop the skills and the talent, and just kind of, go through these levels. And then before you knew it, I was elite level.
Yeah. Where's that coming from at, age 8 to have a work ethic or a desire to go spend 40 hours in a gym? Is it a combination of the coach sees something, obviously your family had some background in it to kind of know what it took. And I'm sure there's just the desire inside from you, like, this is what I want. Did you know what you were getting into at that time? Or you're just like, I just want to do this as much as possible, and everyone was supportive? Or how did that happen?
Yeah, I think that's really what it grew to. At first, it was just starting off, and it was fun. And I loved every single time that I got to go in and have a class. And then I wanted to be there, 40 hours a week. It was always me kind of driving that. And I tell a lot of parents and gymnasts, and people that it's got to come from you ultimately. Like, nobody could have made me train 40 hours a week and basically have a full-time job at such young age.
And you wouldn't want to do it if someone was making you do it a lot of times, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. You can't make a kid do anything 40 hours a week.
Exactly. You cannot push your child to do something and it cannot be your dream or, whatever. It's got to be in them. It's got to be their dream. And it was. And I just really, I think from that birthday party had this really huge passion and fire that developed for the sport and just this love. And I wanted to be there all the time. That is just where I wanted to be. I'm sure my parents were actually like, gosh, I wish we could have her at home more versus, but I was like, I wanted to be there all the time. And that came from me. And so I think it was a mixture of that, a mixture of the talent, a mixture of just, kind of just developing that discipline early on and realizing that, if I want to continue to move up in levels, if I want to get to this certain spot and place in this sport, like I'm going to have to be committed. I'm going to have to be disciplined. I'm going to have to be here this much. But it was just, it kind of became life. The girls I trained with became like sisters and, the coaches that I was being coached by.
It's like a second family.
Really. I was seeing my coaches and my teammates more than I saw my own family, so it really does become like your second family and, these mentors and these people you spend so much time with.
Yeah. And I think it says something too, that as a parent, the importance of feeding your child what their passion is. A lot of times, do you want to not do, I don't know if you want to do that or do this or try this or live vicariously through their child. So it sounds like your parents were just very open to this is the path. Hey, mom and dad, I want to go to the gym 40 hours a week. And the 8-year-old, you say, okay, if that's what you want to do, let's do that.
Yeah, they were always, thank goodness, they were always so supportive and they were never those pushy parents. Even when they did see that I had this talent for it and that, oh, wow, maybe she could, be something or this could go somewhere. It wasn't like something in them started kicking in and they were like, all right, we got to push her to like be this star, be this Olympian. It was still continuously always me, but they were in the background, always supportive, always driving me to and from practice and just there when I needed them. And I always, appreciate the fact that if I wanted to talk about how the day went, if I had a good day, a bad day, they would let me. They're always there. But if I didn't, they never pressed on it either. And they just kind of let gymnastics be my thing. And they were just always supportive and right there behind me. And I think that's what helped me to be as successful as I was too, because I just knew they were there. And I knew it always had to come from me, but I knew that I could always lean on them when I was having, a bad time and they weren't going to try and sway me this way or that. It was just like nonstop support.
Yeah. I'm sure it wasn't always fun either, right? There was probably moments where, and maybe there are those guardrails in a bit, but I think like what you said, that passion coming from inside is key to that.
Yeah, there were plenty of days that I did not want to go into the gym, especially when you get to a level where you were doing these hard, difficult, scary, sometimes death-defying skills.
Yeah.
And maybe, it's a Saturday morning and you're really tired. You don't really feel like getting up, going to the gym for 4 or 5 hours, doing these routines over and over again until they're perfect. And then I would, kind of watch my sister, she lived always more of a normal life and just would get to go to school or maybe have these slumber parties on the weekend or something. And I was so focused on gymnastics and the goals and where I was trying to get to. But at the same time, it still didn't take away the fact that I was like, oh man, sometimes that would have been nice to sleep in on a Saturday morning. Or sometimes maybe I just didn't want to go to practice. I didn't want to do these things.
Never sleep in on any Saturday as a kid. I think that's like a gold medal child, right? So let me have that level.
Just for that.
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
But yeah, of course, there were plenty of those days. And it was still always my drive, and I like to call it my why, because I think when we have those clear, concise whys in our life for the reasons why we're doing something or the reasons why we started, that is what kind of helps propel us forward through those times where maybe we don't want to do something, maybe we're stuck in a rut, maybe we're burned out, or we're just feeling like even the hard work's not paying off. Like we're putting in the work, we're putting in the time, the hours, the effort, and then we're just having to really be patient to wait to have the hard work show up. And gymnastics was constantly teaching me that lesson right there. And so it was one of those things where I would always remember like, yeah, maybe I don't want to go in today. Maybe I don't want to do this today, but ultimately I'm going to just override this feeling because this is ultimately what I want. And I want to make it to the Olympics one day. I want to get to this level. I want to win an Olympic gold medal someday.
Yeah.
And so, I would also have these, smaller goals that were along the way, because sometimes it can be a little daunting to have that one big goal in the future that maybe seems so far away. And at the time, the Olympics did always seem really far in the future.
Right.
So I kind of had to set these smaller goals throughout the year that I would be working towards to kind of help, keep going.
So you're kind of redefining your why as this is happening in a way.
Exactly. And I think you can do that. And then you can kind of have those main whys for, when you really need the big stuff pulled out to like just get through those times, like I said, of just not want to do those nitty gritty things that you don't always want to do. There were, we had to start each practice with the warm ups. We had to do 30 minutes of just straight conditioning of like hard things to like train your muscles, make them strong. We had to
get your cardio going, all that. Yeah.
It's just 20 minutes of stretching after that. And that was before each practice. And then you have to do the basics, which are like, that's not the fun gymnastics. That's just the basic things that are like, you got to do it to warm up. You got to do it to be good at the big skills. And so you got to start here if you want to go here. And you just can't bypass all of those things. All the little things are just as important as the big things, even though
sometimes even more.
Exactly. You got to have the foundation. If you don't have the foundation, then you're never going to get here.
Right.
And so those are just not the fun, exciting, things where you're like flying in the air and you're doing all this, the fun stuff. But they're just as important, like you said. So.
Well, I think you hit on something that to me is almost a key or like a secret to life, is to have that why. You got to figure it out. What is that why? And then really rely on that in those times of not wanting to do something, because a lot of times what it is that you're not wanting to do, if you do it, that's what's going to get you to your why. And if you don't do it, it's going to keep you from achieving it.
Yep.
And people don't always connect those dots. They don't realize that, hey, this kind of moment is what's going to get me there. So it's interesting you finding that at that young age.
Yeah. And I will say, I don't think I knew exactly what that was at the young age. I couldn't have told you like I'm speaking about it now, right? Like I knew it, but I wouldn't have known how to articulate it to you like I do now, and look back and think, wow, yeah, like I was able to really commit to these goals and knowing where I wanted to get to. And I was able to look to that stuff when I wasn't feeling it and when I wasn't wanting to do, all of the things I needed to do to get there. And I use that in my everyday life now, and it's something that it's a basic of life that you have to keep going back to. It's not, you have this one why and then it's just there. Like you have to keep going back to it throughout your life. And maybe in other times, you got to go back to it more.
Yeah.
And, other times you're having to be reminded more often to just push you through maybe a hard season that you're in.
Right. And I think that's why some people say, having a vision board or something like that is important, because it's that visual reminder, right? Yeah. Did you do any like visualization of, hey, this is where I want to be, and you like reminding yourself? I know that's oftentimes it's pretty big in athletics too, is just to visualize you in those moments. Did that push you through those things?
I would say, yeah, I definitely visualize myself winning and being on top of the podium. And I remember visualizing myself, winning an Olympic gold medal.
Yeah.
And having that person put it around my neck. Like I envisioned that. I remember that and doing that. And so, I would say that's really important.
Yeah.
And, something that can be really helpful.
So back to 8, 9, 10, 40 hours in the gym. How are you doing school? How does that work?
Yeah, that's got to fit in somewhere. My schooling life was
it homeschool?
Tried everything.
Yeah.
It was everything throughout the years. It was homeschool. It was public school. It was teachers at our gym. And so we would do, our morning training, and then we'd go to this designated room for where we'd, have our schoolwork. And
how many kids are doing that?
There was like a team of us. I would say probably like 6 to 10.
Wow. That's almost more than I think would be doing that, but that's, yeah.
Yeah, there's always about that number, I would say, that I can remember that I was kind of surrounded by. It wasn't because it didn't feel like just me.
It's probably good too.
Yes, right? That would have been much more difficult. And I think that's another reason I was able to kind of stick with it. There was more people around me, with that same mentality. But it was that I did, we had a private school that was, I finished out high school at, and that was basically for athletes that had these schedules that could not go to regular school. So I've literally done every possible schooling way you can think of.
Yeah, using all the resources.
Yep. Was just as I was going along, whatever we had at the time, or whatever everybody else was doing, or whatever needed to be done.
Yeah. So you said that your dad, his job transferred him to Houston from Baton Rouge. How did that fit into what you were trying to achieve in gymnastics?
Yeah. So I was level 10 at that time.
Okay.
And when we first moved, I think we were all excited, thinking it was going to be this fun new, family journey, with new city and new school, new gym, new people. But once we kind of got moved and settled, it just wasn't as awesome as we were hoping. And it was hard to leave where you're from and your family and your friends and the life and start over, even though at first it seemed exciting. But once you get into it, you're like, oh, maybe not.
Yeah. And there's a culture difference in Louisiana, Texas, right? Just different ways of life in a way.
Right. Yeah. And we were big family people. So we lost that when we moved too. And so, all of it was hard, but it just wasn't going great in the new gym. Things weren't really clicking and with the new coaches. And so it was kind of becoming a struggle to want to go into the gym anymore. And for the first time, those doubts started creeping in about whether or not to continue doing gymnastics. And so I remember, calling this family meeting and being like, hey, I think I'm ready to quit, guys.
Wow.
And my parents were like,
hold on, everything that we just did here, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And so how old are you now when you're wanting to quit?
I guess about 11.
Okay.
Yeah. And
so you almost, 5 years in, just about, right?
5 years. And everything was really different too from the way I was used to training in Louisiana as well. So I think it was just a mixture of it all.
Like
being really
the way that they train, or
the way, the time, the coaching, just it was
the
all
culture different. All that.
Yeah, it was just all different. And so it just was, like I said, hard to kind of adjust to. And my parents obviously want to make sure I was not making some rash decision. And I'd put, quite a few years and a lot of hard work and hours into this already. So they're like, you need to really make sure. And so I was like, no, I'm ready to quit. Yeah. So we go and let the coaches know when I quit. And by the end of 1 week.
So you did. I'm done.
I quit.
This is it.
Yeah. But for 1 week.
So you had 1 week off really in your whole career then, if you think about it, right?
Exactly. Exactly. That was my 1 week. But by the end of that week, I hated not doing gymnastics. I hated not being in the gym and, flipping and being upside down. And so we said, well, all right, maybe this is not the right decision right now. Let's just keep training. Hopefully things will turn around and get better. And luckily they did. And about a year later, that's when my dad's job transferred us again, this time to Dallas, Texas.
Yeah.
And so once we got moved there, things were going well. We were all enjoying Dallas. I don't know, for whatever reason, it was feeling more like home. Mm-hmm. And things were going really well in the new gym with the new coaches and the new teammates. Everything was kind of clicking again. And I would say that spark was just back at that point. And it turns out taking that week off from gymnastics was the best thing that could have happened for my career.
Kind of showed you what life could be. Was it really boring? I'd imagine you're just like, what do I watch TV or
it was. I
go outside?
Thinking like, what do people do with their time?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was so bored, and I was like, no, it really showed me a new perspective of what life was going to look like, feel like, be like without gymnastics. And I didn't like that.
Yeah.
And so even though I didn't necessarily want to go back to the gym in Houston, I still wanted to be there because of the love and the passion that I had for this sport. And that is what overrode those feelings, And I was like, no, this is still what I want to do, even though I don't really feel it clicking here, but I still want to be doing this sport. And so I'm going to push through. And like I said, hopefully things would turn around and get better, but luckily they did.
Yeah.
And so, that I'm thankful for that week because it it sparked a new passion and new goals and just lit that new fire to really go after the next 4 years and 5 years of, looking for that next Olympics.
Yeah.
And
It's almost another scenario of tying back into the why.
Yep.
Right. And okay, now I know what it would be like. Now I want to get back into it. And going to that gym is almost the obstacle you have to go through, knowing that it will lead you eventually down to that why.
Exactly. And then it just shows in life that there are going to be those times that it's not always clicking, in our jobs or in our family or our friends or whatever. Like there are going to be those uncomfortable times where we're going to just have to sit in it.
Yeah.
And
you're going to have
be
seasons.
Patient and push through, because we know that in those seasons, that's when it creates this, this strength and this new purpose, and it just gives us new perspective. And I think we need those difficult seasons that push us, that challenge us, and that grow us. And that's really what that did for me. And I think, like I said, it just shows you in life and even today that there are just going to be those times that it's not always going to be fun, or it's not always going to be easy, or you're not always going to like the people you work with or the people that are around you. But sometimes you just have to keep going, push through, know that you'll get to that other side and you'll be better, stronger, smarter, more resilient for it all.
Yeah. Yeah. So how many gyms are there to do this? So like when you go from Houston to Dallas, is there like 2 or 3 different places that you interview, or is it, this is kind of the place in Dallas, or where, at your level, what does that look like?
There was a couple, but when we were moving from Houston to Dallas, I had already made that elite level, which is the highest level you can be. And so I'd kind of started seeing the gyms, competing around these gyms that were really good, right? And so we knew of
the reputations of the places. Yeah,
exactly. So we knew the gym in Dallas that we were going to call. We were like, okay, at least we know there's a good gym here. We'll call them, see if there's any room for you on the team. And I remember my mom has always thought this was so crazy, but when she called the gym in Dallas, and Woga actually is where I trained in Plano. She called them, and for whatever reason, instead of the front desk lady, answering the phone that day, it was Coach Afghani who became my coach. And normally, he's out on the floor coaching. He's not answering phones, but for whatever reason, he answered that day. And my mom was like, hey, I've got this gymnast, and my husband's being transferred to Dallas, and we're trying to figure out a gym. And she was like, yeah, her name's Carly Patterson. And he was like, I know who she is. I want her on my team. I'll take her.
Come on up right now. Yeah.
Exactly. And
probably went back and said, hey, sorry, you got to go home. He kicked somebody off to get you on.
Exactly. So
why don't you move to Houston?
We'll swap.
Yeah.
He had heard of me already and was like, yeah, I'll take her. I want her on my team. And so just crazy how it all worked that way.
How'd that feel to know that the coach had heard of you before? Was it surprising, or did you think, okay, well, that makes sense? Or
no, it was cool. I think I was surprised, and I was like, okay, yeah. Like I was excited that number one, that there was a spot for me, but also that they were excited to add me to the team.
Sure.
So that, really made it exciting for me going in, like, okay, they want me.
Right. And maybe edifying too, like, hey, this is kind of paying off a little bit that you got this big coach, that does really well, that already knows who you are.
Right. And watching their team at competitions too, I was like, wow, they're like next level. They're serious. They're so good. Like I would love to be as good as them. So I think also it just kind of pushed me to want to be better and to kind of get to their level. And so I'm like, okay, like if he wants me on his team, like he's going to bring me to this level, and it's going to be awesome. And I'm excited. And so, yeah.
How old were you when you moved to Dallas then?
So I guess I was 12.
12. Okay.
Yeah, we were only in Houston for a year. So I guess like 11 to
12.
12-ish, or about to be 12, somewhere around there.
Okay. So when did the Olympics were always kind of like, hey, that's my goal. You visualize it. You can see yourself there. When did it turn into something like, we really need to buckle down because we got a shot at this? When did that start coming up?
I will say the first Olympics that I really remember watching was that 2000 Sydney Olympic Games. And just right then and there thinking, all right, the next one's going to be in 4 years, that Athens Olympic Games. I want to commit to doing everything possible to give myself the best shot at making it.
And you're going to be 16, right?
So
that's the right age. Everything's
perfect age, perfect timing, all of it. It was like, that was going to be my Olympics, in my head. And so I was like, yeah, I'm ready to commit to this and let's go. And so that's when I think I really set my sights and got super serious. And, but obviously, each year you've got all these other little goals. You're just trying to, make the national team every year.
Right.
You're trying to get these international assignments where we go off and compete for the country, and you're trying to do good in those. So there's all these different little goals that, you have each year leading up to that. But that was always the ultimate goal that I was looking for.
Is that something that is considered when you make the Olympic team, like what your ranking is, or making national teams, or your results for that? Are you kind of building a resume on that path?
Yeah, basically, everything you do is putting that confidence and that trust in the selection team and in, Team USA. Mm-hmm. So, every competition that you have, every time you go out and compete for the U.S., if you're consistent, if you're hitting these routines, or the opposite, all of that is kind of going against you or for you. And especially leading up, getting closer and closer to Olympic time, you're wanting to make every turn count. Yeah. You're wanting to hit everything and be like, okay, they can count on me, put me on the team, because I'm going to go out there and hit, and I'm going to do the job.
Yeah. Did you feel the pressure increasing as you were getting closer to that time? And what did that do to you? Did you thrive in that environment, or did you try to run from it a little bit, or how did you deal with that pressure?
Yes, absolutely felt the pressure for sure. But I think I thrived in it. Actually, I don't think. I know I thrived in it. I was kind of that gymnast that it was the more pressure, the better I seemed to do.
The bigger the stage.
Yeah. The bigger the stage, the more people in the crowd, if there was TV there, like if there were all these things, I was like, yes, like I am ready to go out there and just hit. I'm pumped. It got me excited. And that did not mean that there weren't nerves. There were absolutely still nerves. Before each competition, before going up on every single event, there's always, you're trying to calm the nerves and the anxiety and take those deep breaths, and just do what you can do, and just trying to think of it like another practice. But you really have to be mentally strong in order to do that. And so I think, practicing that in the gym and doing those cold routines and, acting like it's a competition. But like I said, each competition that you do, that's not only confidence for the people that are choosing you for these teams and Olympic teams, but that's confidence for you that you're kind of putting in your bank as well.
Yeah.
And so I think through the years, I was building up that confidence for myself too. But I thrived in the pressure, and I just loved it.
Just wanted it.
Yeah. I was all good with it.
But some of that confidence, I'm sure, is from the years of practice. Like you said, doing a cold routine. So that's where you practice, like just cold, like we're waiting and then go.
Right.
So you've simulated these environments
exactly
over and over again. So those reps give you the confidence, and then the pressure is just like, I like the focus.
Right, exactly. And you've got to have, your plan A, your plan B, your plan C. You've got to be ready to go. So there were times where I might be in the middle of a routine that I'm competing. Like I've saluted, we are doing this routine, and I mess up on a skill, and I have to think like on my feet and reverse, the order of something, or do a completely different skill that's not actually my routine, but to get back to the routine.
And do you practice those scenarios? Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the thing. You practice all of these different scenarios. So that way, when you do go out into the competition, you're ready for whatever, gets thrown at you or whatever happens. And I think that absolutely helps, you be able to handle this pressure and to be able to handle these situations that can arise and pop up. And I think that is also just kind of what separates the good from the great. When you are prepared for any given scenario and something happening, and you can handle it well under pressure, that's, there's training behind that. That doesn't just happen. You have to be well prepared. And my coach was so good at preparing us for all of the things and all of the ways. And like I said, the plan A, B, and C. So that way, when we went out there, we we were going to fix whatever happened if we needed, or we were going to do an A+ routine.
It was the confidence.
Yeah.
Do you think maybe that's the key to staying calm under pressure is preparation?
Absolutely. From experience, just in anything that I do, if I have not done the preparation on the back end, I will not go out there and feel confident at all, whether that was gymnastics, whether that's speaking, whatever it is I'm doing, like I like to be prepared as I can be, because people don't see all of the stuff that goes on behind the scenes. Normally they just see us on TV at a major competition.
Yeah, every 4 years.
Yeah, we're ready, and our job is to make it look easy at that point, and to make it look effortless. But they don't see the millions of times that we have failed and fallen and screwed up in the gym and, hurt ourselves, or just over and over done these skills where it just was not working out.
Yeah.
So people don't get to see kind of the behind the scenes of all the preparation that goes into it. And I think that has really taught me, and just kind of been a characteristic of the things that I do in life today, is preparation is important for anything that I do.
Well, it's almost when adversity happens and you have to figure out, what do I do? And maybe that's sometimes like with that pressure gets to people because now they're trying to think.
Yep.
They have a challenging situation. They're doing something that's hard already.
Right.
And now I have to think about something else while I'm doing that. So if you can just get all that thinking out of the way,
Yep.
and simulate that through preparation and practice, then it's just a matter of, okay, here then to here. And you know where that path is.
Exactly.
You know where that is. So, okay, so now we're ramping up. When did you know you were going to the Olympics? How did that go?
I always say when my name was called to the team.
Okay.
that moment.
That's it.
That's
yeah.
when I knew.
Yeah.
We had quite a few competitions leading up to the people, our names being called for that team. We had our competitions before our championships. We had our championships. Then we went and did trials. And all of these are 2-day competitions. So you're competing all 4 events 2 times in a row, which is, not easy. That's hard. It's tiring.
Yeah.
And it's hard to stay at that peak top level too. In a span of a few months. And so it's very fine balance of working with your coach and yourself, and knowing kind of when you need to just take a quick little break, or, back off, give yourself a little rest, versus like ramping up to really be, at your peak and 100% at these competitions. But then after Olympic trials, we still had another 2-day competition after that. And so once we finished that, that's when they named the team, and we were leaving in, a week or something.
So is it like a ceremony, or it's like, here's an email and the fax machine comes in, who made it, or what's that like?
You know what? Ours was really kind of weird and different and not the norm. Normally they announce the Olympic team at the Olympic trials.
Okay.
There's an arena filled with people and everyone's cheering for you, and that, they announce your names, you come up and you wave. And, they did not announce the team at trials that year. They decided to have another 2-day competition after that at our national team training facility. And so we had a live television, happening while they were calling us. And we had quite a few girls, some that were going to get named, some that weren't going to get named. And so it was really crazy. So live TV, they're calling the 6, members. So then you've got, me and, the 5 other girls that are like super excited that our name got called, and we're like, oh my gosh, we made the Olympic team. This is amazing. Like our dreams coming true.
Right.
But then you've got these other girls surrounding you, like I said, on live TV, and you're just like, and some of your best friends.
And their dreams
are shattered.
Yeah.
And you're like, I don't know how to feel.
Yeah. How do you handle that, especially at that age? That's got to be hard.
Yeah, because you're so young, barely 16. And one of the girls that I trained with every single day, went on all these international competitions with, I thought for sure we were going to be on this team together. We did everything together. Her name did not get called. And I was, heartbroken for her. And so you go back and, we're in the place we're staying that night. And it's just like, you can't even be happy.
Yeah.
You're excited internally for yourself, but at the same time, you're crushed for your friends that didn't, get called.
Yeah, that's got to be it's hard.
Yeah,
it's got to be a hard thing to do. How long from that moment until we're on the plane heading out to, it was Athens?
Athens, right? I want to say we had about a week back at home, maybe a week or so. And then we went back to our national training camp for another full week and then plane to
Then
Athens.
It's go.
So yeah, about 2 weeks until that last, getting named to the team before we're flying to Athens.
That's so interesting because I wonder how many people think like it's, like you're on the Olympic team and now you train for 2 years.
Right.
It's 2 weeks. Like, so really everything that you've done to get on that stage has happened way before that moment was there.
Exactly. And everything is, like I said before, everything you do is just putting that trust and that confidence in yourself and the people that are choosing you. And so they know I think they have somewhat of an idea, but once again, you're still having to prove yourself each time that you are going to be reliable and we can count on you and that you can be on this team.
Yeah.
It's really crazy.
It is. It's crazy. And the way
anything can happen in any of these moments too, whether it's injury or just all of a sudden you have really off day or, it's anything can be thrown at you, especially leading so closely up to everything.
Sure. So what was that experience like getting there? Opening ceremonies, is it just like so surreal? Did you realize what was happening or were you so focused that you kind of weren't even in that moment? You're ready to compete.
It was very, get down to business for sure. It was super exciting, very surreal, Athens being just the birthplace of the Olympics. I think the history behind that games was really incredible to be a part of. But I remember getting there and one of the first things we did was go and get all of our Olympic apparel. So we got this huge bag and it was
all the swag.
We were filling it with all of our swag and all the gear we were going to wear while we were there. So that was really cool to see and do. But it was very much serious business. So, making the Olympic team, that was all exciting. And you're like, okay, but that was just step one. That was like, the journey's starting over here. There was this long journey just to make the team and then boom, reset, everything starts back over. And now is like the real time that you need to shine. You need to be on your game and you need to do all of these things that you've proven to do. And
was that an intentional mindset shift that you put yourself through of, I'm not here just to be like, oh my gosh, I'm at the Olympics. I'm here to win and compete.
Absolutely. I did not want to go to that Olympics and walk away with no medals. And to be honest, I did not want to go away and walk away with no gold medal.
Yeah, you wanted that.
I wanted that right there badly. And I would have been very disappointed if that was not, if that wouldn't have been the case. But that was my mentality the whole time and the seriousness for me the whole time. And I think too, being in the Olympic Village, you were just surrounded by greatness and surrounded by the best athletes in their sports, doing, just the best in their country, the best in what they do. And you all just have this common ground in that way. And so it just felt like I was constantly inspired and motivated by that. And so I just was ready to give it my all. Every single practice, every single turn, I was just like filled with this, fire and inspiration to like get it done. Yeah,
there's 2,000 or 3,000 athletes, right, that are all in this. I started when I was 5. I started when I was 6. This is my entire life up to this moment.
Yeah,
like
so
it's got to be like
such a done the same thing.
Yeah,
like it's so cool.
Camaraderie, almost, right?
Yeah, and it just brings people from all walks of life and all countries together, and that's what I love. One of the things I love so much about the Olympics, it brings everybody together from the entire world, and you can just look at each person in awe and know that they have, done everything they can to get to this position just like you have, and you just have this really cool common ground and common bond.
Yeah. So I think it's important. Let's pause on gymnastics and the Olympics, because coming into this, you want the gold medal, but Russia has kind of been the dominating force, right? I think that's kind of the thing. And so did you...
Russia, Romania,
kind of the Eastern European countries.
Right.
Were you what did you think about that from a competition standpoint? No American had beaten Russia or won a gold medal in a non-protested Olympic Games. Was that sticking to your head, or were you like, it didn't matter, it's just you, and so none of that mattered, it was your time to shine?
There is definitely a mixture of that. I knew that I was some of my biggest competition and, just needed to go out there and mentally be strong and do what I did every single day in the gym and just make it like another practice, another just regular competition. Although that's hard to do because when you're at the Olympics rings are plastered everywhere. So you're constantly reminded
where you are. Yeah.
But I had also been competing and even looking up to this one Russian gymnast who had been around. This was her third Olympics.
Oh, wow.
She's been going for gold for 3 Olympics now. And this one, she wanted very badly because this was her last Olympics. This was her plan just as much as it was my plan.
Right.
And so she was very intimidating, I will say. But I remember just kind of being, a little bit naive, Carly, just in my own little world, my own little 16-year-old world at the time, and just always kind of shaking her off. But it was everybody else that we competed against, it was pretty lighthearted, even though we didn't speak the same language, it was very much like you would try and wave and smile and be friendly, right? She was not that way, but it was okay. And I was like, it's fine. You're not going to intimidate me.
And so you just didn't even think about it. It didn't bother you. Just keep doing your...
Yeah, I just focused on myself and what I was there for. I was like, I'm not letting anybody intimidate me because I put in the work and the time, and this is my time too, and it's anybody's game. So everybody's got to go out on the same night and do the routines of their life. So we all have the same shot and the same chance, and why not me?
It probably had to keep you loose though, right? And you're not getting tense or worried and letting the emotion of the environment plus, seeing the competition intimidate you. You just were able to keep it fun almost.
Yeah, exactly. I think I was just so happy to be there and so excited to be there. And once again, I just thrived on that pressure situation too. And I wanted to show everybody what I was made of. I was ready to go out there and shine and do what I knew how to do and do what I knew I could do. And so, when
you've done it so many times before.
Yeah. And you kind of had that mentality. It was easy to not let these other little distractions or, people that may, try to intimidate you get into your head.
Right. Right. Okay. So take us through that night. It's the gold medal is one night, right? It's the all around. And, what was that experience like?
Yeah, no pressure. So
no, not at all. None. Yeah.
Millions of people are watching you. It is your one chance, and you've trained 11 years.
Your parents are like, 40 hours. I've been taking you to the gym every day. You better. If you don't win gold, you're not going to find your way home.
Exactly.
Right?
Don't let yourself down, and don't let your country down.
Yeah. No pressure.
Yeah. So I remember, walking in that night. That night before, I did not get a good night's sleep. It was just difficult to sleep, obviously. And waking up, we went to practice that morning, and it just was not a great practice. It was a little rough. I was tired, and I was not feeling, like I should. And
you worried? Were you thinking, oh, I'm not where I need to be?
I was a little worried. Yeah. I was a little bit. But my coach did a really good job of just kind of getting me out of my head. And he was like, look, it's fine. It's just a practice. You're going to go back to your room. He was like, take a nap, get some rest, and eat a banana, and we're going to be fine. You're going to reset. And so I was like, okay. And I trusted that. And I put the training behind me, and I looked forward to the competition. And walking in that night, I felt great. I took that nap, ate that banana, and I was good to go. But doing the vault was what we started on. I did a great vault, but I landed outside these white lines that you're supposed to land inside of. And so when you land outside of them, you get these deductions. And that's just not the way, you're not wanting to give anything away that night, especially not something on just a landing like that. And so not the way you're wanting to start out your night when you're hoping for a gold medal night. And Coach Evgeny kind of always taught us to never take a fall or a mistake or a bad routine into that next event or that next competition, to always look at that next thing as a fresh start. And obviously that can be really easier said than done.
Right. So how do you do it in this, you're like, oh my goodness, here we are.
Yeah.
How do you not let it turn into this self-fulfilling prophecy? Oh, I'm not going to be able to do well.
Yeah. I think I just got mad. I got real mad. And I was like, there was like a fire, I think, that lit inside me for the rest of the night. And once again, it created a new pressure for me as well. And I was like,
'Cause now you got to catch up.
right. Yes.
You got to play from behind.
I knew
Yeah.
exactly. I knew I was going to have to claw my way to the top and do the best routines on the next 3 events that I've ever done in my life if I wanted a shot at that gold. And so we move on. He's like, forget about it. It's done. Like you're going to have a chance, but you're going to have to be really good. And so we go to bars, and bars was never my strong event, but knowing if you hit a clean routine, suck your dismount, just hit a clean set, you were setting yourself up for a good night. And so hit a great bar routine, and one of the best that I could do. And so that gives me just a little bit of confidence going into the balance beam. That's my best event, my favorite event. It's also my opportunity to nail my own personal beam skill and dismount named after me.
Was it named after you at this point, or
Yes.
So it already was? Okay.
Yeah, about a year before it got named after me from the World Championships doing it there. But so nobody in the competition was doing it, and nobody in the world was doing it. So I knew if I could, hit a clean beam routine, nail this dismount, I was going to impress the judges. It was going to be good.
Yeah.
And set myself up for that last floor routine.
They've heard about it. Now they're going to see it in person.
Yeah. Let's see if I can nail it in competition on all around night. And I did.
Yeah.
I did the best beam routine that I could do. And honestly, I can't even believe that I nailed that dismount on that night, when it mattered and counted most. And
how did that feel?
Incredible. That was probably my favorite moment of that night. Being able to nail the dismount like that in such a pressure-filled situation, and then on the exact night and moment that I needed to do something that way, I was able to do it.
Did it take some of that pressure away then of the slow start?
It did, for sure. And I mean, we had one event left. We look over at the scoreboard after that beam routine. So that was the third event. I was in fourth going into the last event. So floor was up last. I was up last to compete. So that meant I had to watch everybody else go, finish their routines, take a breath of relief while I still had to go. So
is that a good thing then? So that or did you want to just go and do it?
I think it's both. It's good and bad, because you want to get it over with so you can kind of take that breath of relief. But then at the same time, I kind of got to watch how everybody else was finishing up. So that way, by the time it was my turn, I knew the score I was going to need to get, and kind of knew if there was going to be that shot, right?
Yeah.
And so by the time it was my turn, I calculated the score I needed to get. I knew I could get that. I knew I could get a little bit higher than that even too. And so I was like, okay,
let's do this.
So you're saying there's a chance.
Yeah.
So it happened. And, go up and do the best floor routine of my life, nail every single tumbling pass, and, kind of running off the podium into Coach Afghani's arms. And we think we did it, but you're waiting those couple minutes to see the score come up and make sure. And that feels like those couple minutes feel like a couple hours.
Right.
And then
that's got to be 10 years of life just in those 2 minutes.
Yes.
In a way, right?
Yeah, you're like, did we? You're just holding your breath. Like it's really, really surreal and crazy. And then all of a sudden you see Carly Patterson, USA, number one, and he throws
it's a walk-off gold medal. Yeah.
And, Coach throws you up on his shoulders. We're waving at the crowd and looking all around the arena. There's people, just waving the American flag and chanting USA and your name, and it's just.
How did that feel when you're 16 years old? I mean, that's just got to be such a surreal, crazy experience.
It was. I think I was going through all different kinds of emotions. You can see from videos, like I was laughing, I was crying, I was like stunned. I was all the things. And you just kind of think to yourself, oh my gosh, you did it, and that's what he said. He was going, you did it. And I'm like, we did it. So it was just this crazy, surreal moment where, everything that you'd worked for those 10, 11 years just culminates on that one night.
Yeah.
And it's just incredible, because not only are you happy that you did it for yourself, but I mean, your coaches, your family, all of the team that's behind you, right? That has put so much into your training and your success, and your family, your friends, and teammates. It's this whole group of people that really make it. It's for everybody. It's not just for you, and it makes me a little emotional because, you're so happy for all those people too. You're so happy for the coach.
Because they're right there with you.
Yeah.
He's right there with you the whole time.
Yeah. He's putting in the same amount of hours as you are. You know, your like I said, your parents support, your friends, all of your family. And so it's just really, when you're out there and you're competing and it's just you and you're by yourself, it seems like so individual, but there is really such a huge, important team that's behind you that has contributed so much to your success and the reason why you're winning at that moment and stuff. And so it's this surreal moment of, like I said, everything culminating, and you're happy for yourself, you're happy for your country,
right?
And you're happy for everybody that put so much heart and soul into your journey as well.
It's an amazing experience. So the medal ceremony, what was that part like then? Like the national anthem, and I mean, is it still just like, I'm not really sure what's happening. All the emotions are, when did it come down for you? Like you realized what you had done?
Oh gosh, I don't think I was able to go to sleep that night at all. It was just like. Did you wear
the gold medal everywhere, right? We're going out to dinner at 10 o'clock at night. You're just go, wear it.
Basically, you're that moment of standing on the podium, and then putting the gold medal around you, and you
visualize that your whole childhood. And then it happens. Was it like you visualized, or was it different?
I would say it was pretty dang similar to just that visualization feeling, and thinking what it would feel like. I would say that it was very similar, kind of like a deja vu feeling, in a way. Mm-hmm. But yeah, watching, your country's flag go up in that number one spot, and you're singing the national anthem, and it's very surreal. It's just incredible. And obviously just this life-changing moment, and this moment you'll cherish for forever.
Sure.
And then you get whisked away to do nonstop media, it seems like. And, you can't even catch your breath for quite a while. And so, I just remember leaving the arena and going to do these different interviews, and then getting back to my little room that I was in, which is just like these four white walls, and there was nothing to it. And so you go from this, filled arena, like this whole moment, and you're on such this high to and
it's just quiet.
It's dark.
You're just in a room.
It's quiet. Well, and it was 3 a.m. or something at that point by the time you finally get back. And I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to go sleep now. I'm not sleeping tonight. So, but I still had two more competitions, beam and beam finals. I don't know what else I had. But I still had to compete.
We won the silver on the beam.
I still had beam to go.
Yeah.
And so it was it wasn't over.
Yeah.
Yet, there was still work to be done. So.
Okay. Yeah. So what was the experience post Olympics then? Were you thinking, okay, we'll go, get on the plane and back to being a kid? And what was life like after that?
Yeah, that's exactly what I thought. Being 16-year-old naive Carly, just thought I was going to go back to training and same life. Nobody was going to really care, it was just going to go back to normal. And so when I got met back at the Dallas airport with just, a police motorcade and just all these people and fans and media, I was like, whoa.
It's like your own parade when you get home.
Yeah, it was. And then I did have a huge parade in Allen, and so many people came out and just filled the streets, and it was just insane. I mean, I just had no clue that people were going to care and be so happy and so proud. And I didn't know that what it was going to mean for the country. People would come up to me and say, thank you for doing what you did for our country. And I'm like, wow. I never,
amazing.
I always wanted to do well and make our country proud, obviously, but at the same time, this was my passion and my goals and my dreams.
Yeah.
So it was really cool to see people appreciate it.
And it means so much to other people too.
Right. So it was very cool.
Were you ever thinking, well, all I did was just go to the gym for 40 hours a week for 10 years? I mean, that's all it was, right? In a way.
Right. I know. I was like, I thank you for caring.
Yeah.
Thanks for acknowledging the work and, effort that I put in. And, it was very kind to hear how many people it touched and they were proud of me and, their support, and they were rooting me on. And it was very touching.
Yeah. How did life change for you then after that? Were you thinking, okay, we maybe move on from gymnastics, or did you stay with it for a little bit? Or How did that transition out look?
Well, I went back home. I was kind of having back issues at the time. Or not kind of. I was in a lot of pain actually. Yeah. And went to the doctor, and the doctor was like, "Hey, if you are done, if you don't have any other goals that you're really wanting to accomplish and achieve, then I would just kind of suggest maybe retiring so you can just focus more on your quality of life later."
Yeah.
And so I was kind of like, yeah, I don't know what else I would keep training for. I don't know what other goals I'd set for myself. I feel like I had accomplished more than I ever could have dreamed or thought I would in the sport.
Right.
So I was like, okay, it was kind of like an easy decision for me to kind of say, all right, like, yeah, let's move on. Let's see what else the world has to offer,
Yeah.
What do I want to do next? And kind of reinventing myself. And, I came home and I still had 2 more years of high school to finish. So I kind of had to immerse myself into finishing school. And
did you go from like your kind of the school that you were doing while you were training and then going into an in-person or were you doing in-person school?
I was doing that little private school for athletes.
Okay. Did you finish that school or did you go to public school?
That's where I finished.
Okay.
Yeah. So I kind of was trying to do public school when I was still training, and it was just too difficult to make it all happen.
Sure. You walk into Allen High School with the gold medal around your neck. Right?
Yeah, exactly. I decided I was going to go into singing, and I had a gold medal. How hard could a gold Grammy to go after?
Same. Yeah.
Yeah. So turns out it's hard.
Yeah.
It was really hard. Yeah. But my dad has always had this passion for music and singing.
Uh-huh.
So and growing up, I watched him sing worship in church.
Okay.
And he still sings in a band to this day, most weekends. So there was always this passion for it, but not the time to pursue it. So this kind of felt like the perfect time. So I was like, all right, I'm going to jump into this new career and, give it all I've got. And, funny thing that kind of happens when you're known for a different career, something you've already been in, or maybe an accolade or accomplishment, people can kind of put you into a box and find it hard to see you step out of that.
Almost typecasted
doing something
in a way.
else.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, didn't realize the, mean people and, hurtful things that, would kind of be said, trying this new career. So I think those, intrinsic motivations then kind of became augmented by the extrinsic voices.
Yeah.
But that's one of those lessons that anybody can tell you stuff in life. You're too tall, you're too short, you've done this, you've done that. And I think it can be a powerful motivation to get motivation from the inside or the outside. But I ended up learning the hard way that just because I thought I should be doing something doesn't necessarily mean that that's what I should be doing.
Yeah.
And when I realized singing wasn't going to be that ultimate, career path for me, it was hard to let go at first because I hadn't proved those people wrong.
Right. And that's kind of what your life before was, just will your way to success. Right.
And this was a little bit different, this career, and not in like the work ethic way, but it was just a little different, and it was just not fully there either for me. And so, like I said, when I realized that, okay, I don't think this is for me, but even though I was feeling that way, it was hard to step away. It was hard to, give it up and say no, because I wanted to prove these people wrong, right?
Mm-hmm.
The people that said I couldn't do it. And I hadn't done that yet. And so it was hard to step away. But then when I also kind of let go of my own unrealistic expectations that everything I did needed to live up to the gold medal or the Olympics, that moment, that height. And if it didn't, and if it wasn't, a #1 hit single and sold out tours and Grammys, then it was not going to be worth it. And I was going to have failed. And so that's a hard way to live.
Yeah. So trying to live in your own shadow in a way.
Exactly. And so when I finally realized that was just not the realistic way to live, and let go of #1, what other people thought, said, cared about what I did with my own life. Mm-hmm. And then when I let go of those unrealistic expectations that I had for myself, it was just like a heavy, heavy weight lifted.
Yeah. Well, it's a good way to live, and not comparing yourself even to yourself.
Right. And there are going to be times and things where, you try, you give it your all, but it just doesn't work out for whatever reason. Like, not everything you try is going to work out. Not everything you try, you're going to be great at, and I think that's okay. And I'm glad I did the music. I'm glad I went into that. I learned a lot from it. I grew a lot from it. And, it's just one of those things. I think it's always good to try. It's always good to, try different things and reinvent yourself. And
right.
You learn through it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, great. Thank you so much for coming on and talking with us here today. Just an amazing story, and we really appreciate you sharing that.
Thanks.
So we have it's been so fun. So we got one last thing.
Okay.
As you know, we got behind you, we got all the bobbleheads watching. So part of our tradition is on the Level Up lifestyle, you get your own bobblehead. So we actually have a special edition bobblehead here for you. Little bit of a combo throwback as well to the Olympics. So this is your official Level Up lifestyle bobblehead.
Look at it. That's awesome.
So that is you.
I love it.
It's pretty cool.
I love the wreath.
Yes.
That's perfect.
Yes, it's
You did a good job.
So
I need one of those for my trophy case.
well, that's yours.
Oh, okay.
That's yours to take.
But you have another one.
We have another one.
Watching
Yes, we ordered two.
podcast. Okay.
Yes. So you'll watch over all the future guests.
Oh, I love it. Very cool. Thanks, guys.
Absolutely. So if the bobblehead kind of represents everything that you've learned and become in life, if you were to go back in time at a crossroad moment, maybe it's that time in Houston where you're like, I just want to do this, that week off, right? Or, if there's another moment where you're just really kind of trying to figure your way through, what would you tell yourself back then based on what you know now?
Oh, that's hard. I feel like there's so many different moments you can point back to in your life, right? Where you could just say, go back and tell yourself something.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the moment in Houston would be a really good one to just know, give myself that comfort knowing that I was doing the right thing and sticking with it and not giving up when it was getting tough and when things were not clicking and when things were not feeling right. Because once again, I learned so much through that. I learned that whatever we do in life, like I said, it's just not always going to work out the way we want or maybe feel the way we want. It's not always going to feel perfectly right. And I think that was such a good lesson to learn so young.
Yeah.
And to realize that you can push through those times and know that it's only for a season. It's not going to last and feel like this or be like this for forever. But if you can, I love to look at it as like the bow and arrow, right? Like when you're just pulling something, but you're pulling that bow back and it's that stretching, that tension, that pressure, and you feel like you can't stretch anymore in your life, right? Like that's a good place to be if you can think of it, reframe it in your mind that way, because that's right when you're about to get launched into some of, your biggest, furthest, strongest, longest seasons. But you have to have that tugging, that pressure, that stretching, that uncomfortableness.
The tension
to launch you there. And if you don't have that, you don't have that foundation that we talked about, you're not going to be prepared to go to these places that, you're wanting to go to. So it's going to take this uncomfortableness back here to be successful at the top and to get to these other places you want to go to. So.
Yeah. Well, that's great. Thank you so much for being here. We appreciate you spending time with us.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Thanks.
Thanks for joining us today. We hope this episode has inspired you on your path to success. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next story. See you soon on the Level Up Lifestyle Podcast.